in general, people get really freaked out about the format. There are so many so-called rules of resume writing. It must be an Arial font. It must be 1 page long. You must state your objective. Must have precisely 1 inch of white space all the way around. There's a lot of must in the world of resumes. I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1, don't panic. And number 2, so long as you keep it clean, easy to read, and applicant tracking system friendly, there really aren't a ton of rules, formatting rules, that can't be bent or broken. I use a fairly standard layout. It looks a little bit like this, except it's not yellow. And it's not all crammed in on the page like that. But mine looks quite a lot like this, really straightforward, clean, and simple. And by the way, if there's anyone here today who would like to, after this event, have me email you a sample resume so that you can see my format and the style in which I craft resumes, please just be sure and send me a quick email. I'll have my address up on the last slide, and I will be happy to forward that to you. So how do you set this thing up? You've got to think again about what your strongest suit is and what's going to be most important to the potential reviewer. If you're a technical person and you think that your technical skills are going to speak loud and clear at the front end, put your technical skills near the top of the resume. I usually start with an executive summary. You don't have to call it this, but I usually start there. What I want to do in the executive summary is to say, here is my value proposition, here is my so what, and I'm trying to make it very easy for the reviewer to quickly understand what I bring into an organization, or what I can. So that's the format that I typically use. And again, you have some latitude there, just don't panic. Consider what's going to be most enticing to the reviewer and organize your sections accordingly. And seriously, don't freak out about the 1-page myth that somehow just refuses to die. If you need a couple of pages to spell out on your resume what you bring with you, what you can do, what you're good at, use a couple of pages. It's totally okay. All right, I'm going to take a quick second because I think I'm off slide here. While I'm doing that, does anybody have an immediate question? Good. Everyone's got great resumes. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to go back to formatting. There are a few formatting rules that you should pay attention to, especially if you're applying for anything through online application processes, through job boards. And the reason you need to pay attention to this is because you're going to go through an applicant tracking system. Does anybody in this room know what an applicant tracking system is? Okay. What is an applicant tracking system? The applicant tracking system, which is also called the ATS, so you'll hear it called that, it sits at the front end of most recruitment processes. It's a database that corporations and recruiting agencies use to store, sort, and then select relevant candidates for any given position that they have available. Most often, an HR person sits down in front of their computer and codes in terms and phrases from that job description that he or she feels are the quote-unquote most relevant keywords for that particular position. It's pretty much that simple. But can you understand why it's so important for you to know about it? The formatting rules take the ATS into account. It will help you pass through that. Because if you don't pass through the ATS, your resume will never make it onto the human eyeballs. And that, again, assumes that you're applying for something online through a job board or through a company's online application tool, which I'm going to assume that you, at least some of the time, are doing that. Okay, 3 things that make the ATS very, very happy. That's my kid, by the way. Number 1, use a font that is standard across most PC platforms. If you don't know which ones are, why would you know every font that's standard? Google the term common PC fonts or best resume fonts. Those are 2 good ones. This is definitely not the time to bust out like Escula, Poda, or Malgoon Gothic. Even though you might think that you've discovered the coolest font on the planet, you don't go with anything obscure. Now, I'm not saying that you have to use Arial or Times New Roman, which, by the way, are the 2 most common resume fonts. But pick common, standard fonts for your resume. Second, no pieces of flair. No graphics, no text boxes, no logos, heaven help you, no photographs. Yes, by the way, to LinkedIn photographs. I want to see your photo on your LinkedIn. I don't want to see it on your resume. Even if the essence of you is that you're this original, funky, cool person, don't showcase this with a whole bunch of bling bling on your resume. Why not? Again, because these little nuances are known to throw off the applicant tracking system. It tries to parse your resume, and if it has all these zings and blings and stuff, it can actually get goofed up and end up with broken links, and really it could be lost in Never Never Land of a company's database. And that's really not your objective here. So keep things clean and simple. Third, you need to embed relevant keywords, just as we've been talking about. It's beyond vital for you to incorporate these relevant keywords, and I know you've probably talked till you're blue in the face about keywords throughout your schooling, but it's really important if you are applying for jobs online. You've got to build in the terms and phrases that are common to the types of positions that you're applying for, or else the ATS isn't going to flag your resume, and you're not going to continue on in the review process. And that's a bad thing. I highly recommend that everybody here today, after the event, Google the term how applicant tracking systems work. And read a few of the articles that you find if you're at all unclear. I talk to people all the time, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, that they've been sending resumes out for months and they're so frustrated. And I'll ask them the question, do you know what an applicant tracking system does? And when they don't, a lot of times we realize that the way in which they've structured their resume is just not going through them. I mean, it's just not speaking to what their target positions are looking for.